Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyāsam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashta Prayeshvabhadrishu Nityam Bhagavata-sevaya Bhagavatyutama-shloke Bhaktir-bhavati naistiki Yam pravrajantam-anopetam-apeta-krityam Dvaipayana virahakatara juhava Putreti tan mayatayo taravo binedus Tam sarvabhutam hridayam munimanatosmi Yah svānubhāvam akhila-śruti-sāram ekam adhyātma-dīpam atititīrṣatāṁ ndham saṁsāriṇāṁ karuṇayāha purāṇa-guhyaṁ tam vyāsa-sūnum upayāmi munīnām. Okay, so we will start with this verse which I chanted, which is the pranam mantra to Sukadeva Goswami, chanted by Srila Sutta Goswami in the beginning of the first canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam, verse number 3 from the second chapter of the first canto. Yah svānubhāvam akhila-śruti-sāram ekam adhyātma-dīpam atititīrṣatāṁ ndham saṁsāriṇāṁ karuṇayāha purāṇa-guhyaṁ tam vyāsa-sūnum upayāmi guruṁ munīnām. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto him, Śuka, the spiritual master of all sages, the son of Vyāsadeva, who is out of his great compassion for those gross materialists who struggle to cross over the darkest regions of material existence, spoke this most confidential supplement to the cream of Vedic knowledge after having personally assimilated it by experience. Purport. In this prayer, Srila Sutta Goswami practically summarizes the complete introduction of Srimad-Bhagavatam. Srimad-Bhagavatam is the natural supplementary commentary on the Vedanta Sutras. The Vedanta Sutras or Brahma Sutras were compiled by Vyāsadeva with a view to presenting just the cream of Vedic knowledge. Srimad-Bhagavatam is the natural commentary on this cream. Svānubhāvam akhila-śruti-sāram ekam. Śruti-sāram, Srila Prabhupada refers to this phrase of this verse. Śruti-sāram means the essence or cream, quintessence of all the Shrutis. Srila Sukadeva Goswami has thoroughly realized, was a thoroughly realized master on the Vedanta Sutra, and consequently he also personally realized the commentary, Srimad-Bhagavatam. It's a very important point, and actually the reason why I have chosen this particular verse to speak on, because it is specifically said, Yah svānubhāvam akhila-śruti-sāram ekam, that Srimad-Bhagavatam is the result of anubhav, or realization or direct experience of Sukadeva Goswami. It indicates the method of understanding Srimad-Bhagavatam. To understand Srimad-Bhagavatam theoretically is not possible. You have to experience Srimad-Bhagavatam exactly in the same manner as Srila Sukadeva Goswami has done. And therefore, he is capable of transmitting this knowledge further. So this svānubhāva, his own experience or own realization of this subject matter or topic, is an important point of this verse. And therefore, Prabhupada says, Srila Sukadeva Goswami was a thoroughly realized master on the Vedanta Sutras, and consequently he also personally realized the commentary Srimad-Bhagavatam. And just to show his boundless mercy upon bewildered materialistic men who want to cross completely over nations, he recited for the first time this confidential knowledge. There is no point in arguing that a materialistic man can be happy. No materialistic creature, be he the great Brahma or an insignificant ant, can be happy. Everyone tries to make a permanent plan for happiness, but everyone is baffled by the laws of material nature. Therefore, the materialistic world is called the darkest region of God's creation. Yet the unhappy materialists can get out of it simply by desiring to get out. Srila Prabhupada is amazing. Unfortunately, they are so foolish, they do not want to escape. Therefore, they are compared to the camel who relishes thorny twigs because he likes the taste of the twigs mixed with his own blood. He does not realize that it is his own blood and that his tongue is being cut by the thorns. Similarly, to the materialist, his own blood is as sweet as honey. And although he is always harassed by his own material creations, he does not wish to escape. Such materialists are called karmis. Out of hundreds of thousands of karmis, only a few may feel tired of material engagement and desire to get out of the labyrinth. Such intelligent persons are called jnanis. The Vedanta Sutra is directed to such jnanis, but Srila Vyāsadeva, being the incarnation of the Supreme Lord, could foresee the misuse of the Vedanta Sutra by unscrupulous men, and therefore he personally supplemented the Vedanta Sutra with the Bhagavad Purāṇa. It is clearly said that this Bhagavatam is the original commentary on the Brahma Sutras. Srila Vyāsadeva also instructed the Bhagavatam to his own son, Srila Sukadeva Goswami, who was already at the liberated stage of transcendence. Srila Sukadeva realized it personally, and then he explained it. By the mercy of Srila Sukadeva, the Bhagavad Vedanta Sutra is available for all those sincere souls who want to get out of material existence. Srimad-Bhagavatam is one unrivaled commentary on Vedanta Sutra. Sripada Shankaracharya intentionally did not touch it because he knew that the natural commentary would be difficult for him to surpass. He wrote his Shariraka Bhashya, and his so-called followers deprecated the Bhagavatam as some new presentation. One should not be misled by such propaganda directed against the Bhagavatam by the Mayavada school. From this introductory shloka, the beginning student should know that Srimad-Bhagavatam is the only transcendental literature meant for those who are Paramahamsas and completely freed from the material disease called malice. The Mayavadis are envious of the personality of Godhead. Despite Sripada Shankaracharya's admission that Narayana, the personality of Godhead, is above the material creation. This is a favorite quote of Shankaracharya by Srila Prabhupada, Narayana paro vyaktat. He always quotes this particular line from Shankaracharya's commentary to Bhagavad Gita. Narayana para, he is transcendental. The envious Mayavadi cannot have access to the Bhagavatam, but those who are really anxious to get out of this material existence may take shelter of this Bhagavatam because it is uttered by the liberated Srila Sukadeva Goswami. It is the transcendental torchlight by which one can see perfectly the transcendental absolute truths realized as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Yak svānubhāvam akhila-śruti-sāram ekam adhyātma-dīpam atititīrṣatāṁ tamo ndham saṁsāriṇāṁ karuṇayāha purāṇa-guhyaṁ tam vyāsa-sūnum upayāmi munīnām. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto him, Śuka, the spiritual master of all sages, the son of Vyāsadeva, who out of his great compassion for those gross materialists who struggle to cross over the darkest region of material existence, spoke this most confidential supplement to the cream of Vedic knowledge after having personally assimilated it by experience. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vijnana Goswami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Vanchakalpatarobhyascha Kripa Sindhubheva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Ajanulambita Bhujokana Kavadatu Sankirtanai Kapitaro Kamalaya Taksha Vishwambaro Dvijavaro Yugadharma Palo Vande Jagat Priyakaro Karuṇāvataro Yantah Pravishya Mama Vachim Imam Prasuptam Sanjivayat akhila-śruti-sāram Svadhamna Anyamscha Hasta Charana Shravanat Vagadim Pranannamo Bhagavate Puruṣāya Tubhyam Svasyastu Vishwasya Kalah Prasidatam Dhyayantu Bhutani Shivam Mithodaya Manascha Badram Bhajata Tatokshajaya Veshyatam No Matirabhyaha Ituki. So we continue our general description of the topics of Srimad-Bhagavatam, structural description of the topics of Srimad-Bhagavatam, with the intention of understanding the methodology of Srimad-Bhagavatam, how Srimad-Bhagavatam is, by which means Srimad-Bhagavatam is conveying to us its most important message. And today, in this connection, I will touch upon the 10 topics of Srimad-Bhagavatam and how these 10 topics are instrumental to convey the main meaning or the main topic of Srimad-Bhagavatam. How the 9 subsidiary topics of Srimad-Bhagavatam are instrumental to convey the main topic, the main theme, the main message of Srimad-Bhagavatam, which is the nature of Ashraya, or the Supreme Lord. So I really hope that I did not bewilder you last time when I was trying to say that Srimad-Bhagavatam is a very complex literature. We have to be very clear about the complexity of this literature to properly appreciate it. And it doesn't mean that we are deprived of understanding of this literature. We will be able to understand it. Everyone on a different levels. It's a merciful creation of Srila Sukadeva Goswami. It is said clearly in this verse, saṁsāriṇāṁ karuṇayāha purāṇa-guhyaṁ. He revealed this most confidential purāṇa-guhyaṁ to saṁsāriṇāṁ, to us, people who are suffering in this material world, the world of repetition of birth and death, saṁsāriṇāṁ karuṇayāha. He wants us to get out. And Srila Prabhupada says it's very easy to get out of this world. One has just to desire it. And all the means are already available. Srimad-Bhagavatam is one of those means, is most glorious means to get out of this world. And therefore, it's available. The meaning of it is available. The message of it is could be understood. But at the same time, we should not, the main essence of my previous class was that we should not be satisfied with a simplistic understanding of this great literature. Because we may cheat ourselves, we may deprive ourselves of the real cream, the real essence, the real nectar which is contained in this literature. And therefore, it's important to understand these preliminary topics which I'm talking about, how to understand in general Srimad-Bhagavatam, and what Srimad-Bhagavatam is explaining, and how, by which means Srimad-Bhagavatam is explaining all these topics. And as I mentioned last time when we met with you in this virtual space of internet, I said that the understanding of Srimad-Bhagavatam implies revelation. Why? Because Srimad-Bhagavatam is the very svarup of the Lord. Srimad-Bhagavatam is not an ordinary literature. It's not just a book. It's Grantha avatar. As much as there is fish avatar, and tortoise avatar, and Narasimha avatar. There are so many avatars of the Lord. There is one more avatar, which is Grantha avatar. Srila Prabhupada calls Srimad-Bhagavatam literary incarnation of the Lord. And it's a direct interpretation or direct understanding of what is said in different Puranas, including Padma Purana, which explain different cantos of Srimad-Bhagavatam, or corresponds different cantos of Srimad-Bhagavatam to different parts of Lord's Svarup. So Srimad-Bhagavatam is Bhagavata-svarup. It's the Lord Himself. Where the first two cantos are His two lotus feet, and then third and fourth canto His thighs, and fifth canto His belly, and sixth canto His beautiful shoulders and His chest with heart inside, and seventh and eighth canto His powerful hands, and ninth canto His neck, or kanta, and then 10th canto His beautiful face, and then 11th canto, or smiling mouth of the Lord. That's His 10th canto. It's a pretty big mouth. The 10th canto is the biggest one. And then 11th canto is His forehead. His wisdom and knowledge is there in the 11th canto, and then the 12th canto is His crown. So that's His Svarup, Bhagavata-svarup. And it is very interestingly said in these verses of Padma Purana, which describe Srimad-Bhagavatam as Krishna Himself. Namami devam karunani-dhanam tamalavarnam suhita-avataram. This is Suhita Avataram. the most beneficial avataram, which has tamala varnam, which has the color of tamal tree. I'm bowing down to this devam, which is full of, which is the treasury of karuna, of the mercy. Apara samsara samudra setum. And this Srimad-Bhagavatam, this incarnation, this specific incarnation of the Lord is apara samsara samudra setum. It's the setu, the bridge over the samsara samudra, the ocean of samsara. So basically Srimad-Bhagavatam is this bridge by traversing which we can reach the opposite shore of this ocean of samsara. Bhajamahe Bhagavata-svarupam. I'm bowing down, I'm worshipping this Bhagavata-svarupam, this literary incarnation of the Lord. So we have to understand that there is something very serious and important in our attempts to understand Srimad-Bhagavatam, or in our attempts to get revelation of Srimad-Bhagavatam. It's basically our attempts, we are not attempting to study Srimad-Bhagavatam, because studying means or implies that we are looking down at Srimad-Bhagavatam. Srimad-Bhagavatam is the object of my study. Srimad-Bhagavatam cannot be the object of my study. Bhagavata-svarup cannot be the object of my study. I am the object of mercy of Srimad-Bhagavatam. I am the object of mercy of the Supreme Lord. He has to look at me. He has to mercifully give his merciful look upon me, by which some knowledge can be revealed to me. So that's the process. The process is to obtain the knowledge, not the knowledge, to obtain the revelation, to obtain the mercy of the Supreme Lord. We are studying Srimad-Bhagavatam to obtain the mercy of the Supreme Lord, and by the means of obtaining this mercy, we will be able to cross over this samsara samudra, the ocean of material sufferings, because it's a specific setu, the bridge which is built by the Lord Himself for us to cross it over. So it's very important, again, that we're applying our propensity to hear something, to Srimad-Bhagavatam, to receive the mercy of Srimad-Bhagavatam. And I also said, very important thing, that Srimad-Bhagavatam, the main language of Srimad-Bhagavatam is Samadhi Bhasha. There are some other languages employed here and there, and we have to distinguish when the main voice of Sukadeva Goswami is transmitting to us the main message of Srimad-Bhagavatam, and some subsidiary topics which are spoken even by different voice. You know, in Srimad-Bhagavatam, Sukadeva Goswami employs different poetical meters to convey this message. You know, when he speaks some ordinary things, he doesn't use very elaborate or very fancy meters. But when it comes to convey something very important, he uses very fancy and beautiful poetic meters, and so on and so forth. So, but we have to understand that this is Samadhi Bhasha, because initially Srimad-Bhagavatam was received in Samadhi, in trance, and it was conveyed in trance by Vyāsadeva to Sukadeva Goswami. And then Sukadeva Goswami in trance explained it to Maharaja Parikshit, who was put into trance by this explanation. And that's exactly what is supposed to happen with us. And sometimes we feel it like we're being put into trance by explanation of Srimad-Bhagavatam. But that's not real trance. The real trance is when Maharaja Parikshit says, I don't want to eat, I don't want to sleep, I don't want to drink. I just want to hear more and more these topics of the Supreme Lord, which conveying directly the Supreme Lord. And the last point which I made in my previous class was the point made by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, where he explained that there are 8 different progressively higher and higher and higher conceptions of the Absolute Truth. And all these conceptions are being directly or indirectly described in Srimad-Bhagavatam and ultimately refuted to give us the highest conception of the Absolute Truth. Why it is necessary? Why it is necessary to explain different conceptions of the Absolute Truth, different conceptions of Brahma, of the Supreme Upasya, the Supreme Object of Worship, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because the seeds of these misconceptions are all there within our heart. As I said, that the first misconception about Absolute Truth, when somebody is completely bewildered, is samshaya, the doubt. He doesn't know whether there is a cause of all causes or not. And then nastic. No, there is no cause of all causes. It's all matter. It's just coming from matter. Nastika. And then nirguna. No, the cause of all causes, the original cause of everything is impersonal. So if we look deep down very honestly within our heart, officially, yes, we recognize or we admit or we profess that our conception of Absolute Truth is that he's a cowherd boy from a little village in Uttar Pradesh. And he's herding his cows and doing some mischief with the village girls. So, but to really come to understanding, to anubhav, to really understand this very high conception of the Absolute Truth, we have to first negate this lower misconception of the Absolute Truth which are there. And sometimes people think, oh yeah, this is a very beautiful symbolic description of the Absolute Truth. Ultimately, Absolute Truth is Brahman, but symbolically it's described as young boy with the peacock feather in his head. It's just symbols. And Mayavadis usually they try to, deconstruct Srimad-Bhagavatam by explaining that this is all just symbolic descriptions. So what I want to say is that it's extremely important to recognize the existence of these misconceptions within our heart. All the progressive misconceptions, starting with samshaya, and then nastika, and then nirgun, and after nirgun kliba, and after kliba purusha but without his energy, and then purusha with his energy, mithuna, and then parakiya and svakiya. So to understand all these 8 conceptions, then only we will be able to get the complete, full understanding of this parakiya conception of the Absolute Truth, which is totally unrestricted conception. I tried to explain last time that all other conceptions of the Absolute Truth overtly or openly or in some coward way, they are trying to limit the Absolute Truth. And the only completely unlimited, completely unrestricted conception of the Absolute Truth is this parakiya bhav, parakiya conception of the Absolute Truth, that the relationship between the Absolute Truth and his own energy take form or shape of illicit relationship between the male and female as in Vrindavan. So, please, don't be in a hurry to say that I already know this. We don't know this. I remember once I was speaking with some lady philosopher. She was a very intellectual lady. And I asked her, what is, is there a God? She said, yeah, maybe, samshaya, maybe. And then, she said, yeah, if it's there, it's, some energy which is there, so nirgun. And I said, no, absolute truth is herding cows. And she really, she exploded. She couldn't take it. But all these seeds of misconceptions are there within us. And we, by studying Srimad-Bhagavatam very thoroughly, we will be able to really beautifully appreciate this conception, and this highest conception of the absolute truth. And therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he actually loved very much one poet. What's his name? Upadhyaya? I forget his name now. Raghupati Upadhyaya. This Raghupati Upadhyaya, this verse is quoted in Chaitanya Charitamritam. Kam prati kathaitam mashe samprati kava pratitim ayatu gopati tanaya kunje gopavaduti vitam brahma. He says, to whom can I speak this? And even if I speak this to somebody, who will believe me when I say that Isha, the Supreme Lord, who is Brahma, the Absolute Truth, what is he doing? Gopatitanaya kunji gopavaduti vitam. He is playing with the, hunting the gopis in the bushes on the banks of river Yamuna. So he says, to whom can I speak and who will believe me? That the Supreme Truth is doing this. So it's not an ordinary thing. By the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we accept it. But to realize it is something different. It's easy to accept it in one sense. It's not easy to accept it, but it's easier to accept it. But it's much more difficult to come in touch with it in reality. So now I come to a very fascinating and important subject matter, the direct subject matter of this class, while explaining the 10 topics of Srimad-Bhagavatam, because as Srila Sukadeva Goswami himself says, please listen very carefully, he himself says that actually, the topic of Srimad-Bhagavatam is one. There is only one topic. Srimad-Bhagavatam wants to convey to us this truth, that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is a young boy. His eternal svarup is a svarup of a young boy who is eternally engaged in loving pastimes with his devotees. And these pastimes take shape of some illegal relationship to deepen the bliss of these exchanges. But as we know, and that will be, as I said, the main topic of this class, there are 10 topics of Srimad-Bhagavatam described in the end of the second canto. Atra sarga visargascha stanam Poshanam utaya Manvantara sunu katha niroda mukti Ashraya. Starting with the sarga and coming to Ashraya. Ashraya is the last point, and Ashraya is the 10th topic, the main, most important topic. And in fact, you may safely say that this is the only topic. This is the topic of Srimad-Bhagavatam. Srimad-Bhagavatam wants to explain to us Ashraya, why the 9 other topics are there. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, explaining this first and second verses of the 10th chapter of the second canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam, goes as far as to say that if there are 10 topics, then there should be 10 books. Because usually when we speak about the book, there is one main topic. If you to say that a book has 10 topics, it basically means you're talking not about one book, you're talking about 10 books. So what is the point of talking about Srimad-Bhagavatam as one book if there is 10 topics? Srimad-Bhagavatam, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, no. There is only one topic and 9 other topics are there to explain the 10th topic. And it's very important to understand what it means. Dashamasya vishuddhyartam navanam iha lakshanam. These 9 other lakshanas, 9 other topics of Srimad-Bhagavatam, dashamasya vishuddhyartam, they are there only to clarify or to isolate, as Prabhupada explains. I think he translate this isolate, yes. To isolate, vishuddhyartam. Vishuddhi means, yes, rectify, or isolate, or clarify. Dashamasya vishuddhyartam navanam ihalakshanam. To clarify or to isolate. And I will explain what it means to isolate a little later. Varnayati mahatmanah shrutinarthena chanjasa. Very important verse to understand the methodology of Srimad-Bhagavatam. What Sukadeva Goswami is saying here is that Srimad-Bhagavatam, to make us understand this 10th topic, which is difficult to understand. It's very difficult to understand. But to make us understand this 10th topic, Ashraya, Srimad-Bhagavatam explains 9 other topics which are easier to understand because they are accessible to our direct experience. The 10th topic of Srimad-Bhagavatam, Ashraya, is not accessible to us. There is no way for us in our present state of mind to access Ashraya because by definition, Ashraya is something which is yatova imani bhutani, yena, what is this verse from Taittiriya Upanishad, that Lord Chaitanya often quoted this verse, which describes Ashraya. That's the definition of Ashraya. Very important definition of Ashraya, which we should understand. What is Ashraya? Ashraya means shelter, the shelter of everything, the supreme truth, the supreme absolute truth, as we say. So what is this Ashraya? What are the 3 characteristics, 3 main characteristics of Ashraya? This we have to know very clearly. So yatova imani bhutani jayanti, yana jatani jivanti, yat prayanti, abhisam vishanti. So the Ashraya, or the supreme shelter, has 3 main functions. Yataha, ablative function. Yataha, first is shelter is something from which everything comes out. Whatever we see, whatever is there, is coming from the shelter, from Ashraya. It's the source of everything. Therefore, the first function of the shelter, or the first feature of the shelter of the absolute truth, is that is ablative feature. It's coming. Therefore, yataha, it is used in this verse of Taittiriya Upanishad. And then yena, by which everything is maintained, by which everything is pervaded. That's the second function. The absolute truth is the source of everything, but it's also the means of maintaining everything, and therefore the absolute truth enters into everything. Absolute truth is all-pervading, it pervades all its creations. So everything is coming from the absolute truth, everything is being pervaded by the absolute truth, yena. And then yat pravishanti, locative case, yasmin. In this verse from Taittiriya Upanishad, yat stands for yasmin, in which, locative, upon which everything is based, in which everything enters after annihilation. So this is three functions, and this is the definition of Ashraya. And therefore, Ashraya is not accessible to us. We cannot know our source, we cannot know the all-pervading truth which is everywhere there, and we cannot know where we will enter. This is too big of a truth. This is too big topic. And it's inaccessible. It's possible to understand it, but there is a very specific technique to understand this. But Srimad-Bhagavatam is conveying to us what this source of everything, what this instrumental cause of maintenance of everything, and what is this locative or the adhisthān, the foundation of everything. What is this? By the means of these 9 topics. Because 9 other topics are somewhat accessible to our direct experience. And the meaning here, and therefore it is said, Vishuddhartam, Dashamasya Vishuddhartam, in order to clarify or to explain the 10th topic, the 9 other topics are being explained. It's very easy to understand what it means. If you want to understand the tree, you ultimately have to understand the root of the tree, isn't it? But the root is very deeply covered. It's not visible. So to understand the tree, you study the trunk, you study the bark, you study the twigs, you study the leaves, you study the photosynthesis, everything else. But all this is to understand the root. If you understand the leaves and the bark and the trunk and everything else, but you don't understand the root, you didn't understand anything. But you may use your understanding of the genetic composition of the cells of this to understand the root. It's basically, to give more, even more relevant example, like, suppose somebody has cancer. And, it's a deadly disease, it's a very terrible disease, and you don't know the root of this cancer. But you understand that to deal with this problem, you have to know the root of the cancer. But how you can understand the root, you can understand the root cause of this cancer? You study the visible part of it. You take this cancer, you try to understand what are the processes which bring about this cancerous creation. And ultimately, in this way, you will be able to understand the root. The exact same methodology is employed by Srila Sukadeva Goswami in Srimad-Bhagavatam. In fact, it's very interesting that in the ninth or eighth, I think, yeah, in the 8th chapter of the 2nd canto, Maharaja Parikshit asked Sukadeva Goswami many questions. It's a series of many questions. It's not even 10, more than 10. He asked one question after another, and he said, and then in the end he said, I asked you all these questions, but I may miss something. So my inquisitiveness may not be complete. So in case I miss something, disregard all my questions and just explain to me the truth in a systematic manner. So he's very inquisitive. He wants to know the truth. He asks all the questions, but he provides this possibility. He says, maybe that I didn't ask you something important. So don't worry about this. You explain to me the truth in a systematic manner. And that's why Sukadeva Goswami starts explaining the truth in a systematic manner from the 10th chapter of the 2nd canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam, and in the 9th chapter also, in Chatuk Shloki of Srimad-Bhagavatam, explaining these topics and saying that all these topics, what is the meaning of these topics, the meanings of these topics for us to understand the truth and to understand what else does it mean, Visuddhyartam, Vishuddhi, Vishesha-shuddhi. We should make this topic specifically clear. Vishuddhyartam. Vishuddhyartam means that by understanding all these 9 topics, we will get some idea of what the 10th topic is. And then we will be able to understand that actually 10th topic has much more characteristics than the sum total of these 9 topics. That's another very, very important point. We have to understand that all these things which are explained in other canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam, all these topics of Sarga, Visarga, which I will explain now. Now I'm dealing with this most important topic. All these things which are available to us, which can be somewhat experienced by us, which are visible to us, they all indicate the absolute truth because they are coming from the absolute truth. But they are not describing the absolute truth as such. The absolute truth is bigger than this. The sum total is bigger than the whole is bigger than sum total of the parts. That's a very important point. Please try to understand this. The whole is bigger than sum total of the parts. And therefore, while explaining all these 9 topics, Sukadeva Goswami will be able to ultimately explain to us the specific features of the Absolute Truth, which are not included in these 9 topics, which are not really the part of these 9 topics. And we will be able to understand what is this Absolute Truth, because otherwise, if we didn't go through this exercise, when we'll talk about Absolute Truth, we will say, oh yeah, I know. And we will reflect our own experience on the Absolute Truth, as usually people do. God is like this. God is, some old man who is really tired and he's just really depressed and he's just, scratching his head. So no, no, we have to understand these 9 topics, and then when Sukadeva Goswami says that no, Absolute Truth is much bigger here, what it is, we will be able to realize what Absolute Truth is in reality without this projection of our experience onto the Absolute Truth. That's another meaning of this second verse, which explains the methodology of Srimad-Bhagavatam. Very important verse to understand. And one more thing is very importantly explained here. Varnayanti Mahatmana, different great people, great sages, they described all these 10 topics, or 9 topics to ultimately explain the 10th topic. How they do it? Shrutena arthena chanjasa. They're doing it directly, cha anjasa. Or they want to convey to us what the Absolute Truth is. Very important, again, point. Sukadeva Goswami says that all these great sages, their main desire is to give us the direct understanding of Ashraya, of the shelter of everything, of the Supreme Lord, Supreme Absolute Truth, however you call it. But they cannot do it directly, or it's difficult to do it directly. Therefore, they use Shrutena and Arthena. In Srimad-Bhagavatam, there are 2 means how they describe the Absolute Truth. Also, again, very important point to understand the methodology of Srimad-Bhagavatam. Shrutena means sometimes the absolute truth, oftentimes the absolute truth is described in Srimad-Bhagavatam by Shrutena, by direct prayers. Every now and then, somebody bursts into prayers to the Supreme Absolute Truth who is standing in front of him and directly says, you're like this, you're that. His understanding. Shrutena means the prayers, they contain the direct philosophy about absolute truth. And arthena means by the meaning of the stories. The different stories are there, but ultimately the meaning of these different stories, why different stories, so many different stories are there in Srimad-Bhagavatam, ultimately again to convey this for us to understand the nature of Ashraya. So this is how, this is important part of our discussion. Again, there are 10 topics. Out of these 10 topics, there is only one topic which is important. Every other topic is subsidiary. There is one primary topic, and all the secondary topics, which are more accessible to our understanding, are there for us to understand partially the 10th topic, and then to be able to appreciate the 10th topic completely when it's being described in the 10th canto fully. Not only in 10th canto, it's described in every canto. Absolutely, in every canto, the Ashraya is described, but 10th canto is specifically for this description. And there are two means of directly conveying this knowledge to us. By Shrutena and by Arthena, by the stories and by the prayers. Therefore, there are so many prayers in Srimad-Bhagavatam, and sometimes we think that it's too many prayers. We need more action because we're more used to more dynamic description. But it's important. This is two means to give us anjasa and the understanding of this. This is how all these Mahatmas are conveying this to us. So now, having said this, this is a little introduction to the whole lecture, but important introduction. I will now briefly describe all these 9 topics, how they are related to each other and how they are ultimately conveying this message of the Absolute Truth. Again, very important point, please try to remember what is shelter. If somebody asks you what is shelter, what is Absolute Truth, what is this Supreme Personality of Godhead, you say these 3 functions are there: ablative function, instrumental function, and locative function. These 3 vibhaktis, 3 cases of Sanskrit language are being used to describe the functions of the Absolute Truth. And that's why it's so difficult to understand, but it's possible to understand through these 9 topics and through these 2 means, Shrutena and Arthena, through the stories and through the direct prayers. So now let's start with the first topic, Atra Sarga Visargascha Stanam Poshanam Utaya. Sarga, the first topic. All the Mahapuranas, they contain, usually it is said that Puranas contain 5 topics. All the Puranas contain the topic about Sarga, creation. All the Puranas contain the topic about Visarga, secondary creation. All the Puranas contain the topic about Manvantara. All the Puranas contain the topic about Mukti. But sometimes it is described that Mahapurana contains 10 topics, but ultimately 10 topics is the elaboration of these 5 topics of the Puranas. And why all these topics are there, starting with Sarga? First of all, because we're here in this world, and we're looking around, we're seeing all this world, and everyone inevitably asks, where it's coming from. How did it come about? You know, it's a big topic in everyone's mind. The scientists are trying hard to understand this. You know, it's a creation. It has an end. It's being destroyed all the time. It means that there was a beginning of this. How was the beginning? So the scientists, they came out with this conception of Big Bang. You know, once upon a time, there was nothing. And then this nothing sort of becoming something. And the Big Bang took place, and you know, here we are, the result of this Big Bang. And what can you expect from the result of the Big Bang? Nothing good can come out from the Big Bang. So all the calamities started from this Big Bang. And in one sense, we even agree with this theory, because we say that, yes, Big Bang was there when the Lord glanced over the material nature, which was very peaceful and was completely unmanifest in its unmanifest state. So this first topic is the elementary creation, the creation of the elements, creation of the things, is why it is important to understand, because we really have to understand our situation. Basically, another simile or another metaphor which we can employ to understand the methodology of Srimad-Bhagavatam. Srimad-Bhagavatam wants to convey to us the truth that you belong to God. And God is like this, and to belong to God or to function in relationship with God, you have to you know, serve God, you have to be engaged in devotional service. But first you have to understand where you are standing. It's like, you know, if you are in a big park and you're for the first time in this big park, and this big park is a very complicated, and there are many pathways, and ultimately you want to come somewhere to the biggest attraction of this park. But first thing which you have to know is where you are now, right? This is when you are in front of the big map of the big park, it always indicates you are here. And then you can decide where you want to go. So Sukadeva Goswami is employing exactly the same methodology to systematically explain the absolute truth by saying, you are here. This is where you are. This is what you are. This is what you see around you. Let's start with the elements. Let's start with the basic blocks of creation. And this is Sarga. Sarga, how the elements, the basic blocks of creation came about after the glance of the Lord throughout the completely balanced state of three gunas of matter out of balance. You know, Lord glance, and the glance of the Lord, this is time. And the name of the time, very important name of the time, which is used in Srimad-Bhagavatam, is Kshobaka. Kshobaka means something which destroys the balance. Like, you know, sometimes we preach that you should be balanced, you know, but the balance is not possible in the material world. The whole dynamic of the material creation is only because everything is imbalanced. And this imbalance is actually good in one sense. So the Lord looks in the material nature, and at this moment the Big Bang takes place, and the processes of creation start, and the first, you know, of course we know the first Mahatattva was created from this completely balanced state, the Mahatattva, the first element, which is very sattvic, very pure. And then from Mahatattva, Sutra Tattva was created. Sutra Tattva is a dynamic state. Sutra Tattva is actually pran, the living force in this creation. So Mahatattva and then Sutra Tattva. And then after that, by the tamagun, tamasic creation of it was ahankar. Ahankar, of false ego, false identity. It's a very, very basic and very elementary state of matter. So we all have, everyone has the ahankar. Every creature in this world has this ahankar, the sense of identity or separateness. And then from ahankar, everything else, all the tanmatras and everything else, all the senses and demigods and everything else. But first there was Mahatattva and then Sutra Tattva and then ahankar. And everything else is actually a result of ahankar. So everything has the falsity in it, in this creation. And there are so many other implications of this truth. And ultimately everything else, everything is tamasic by nature because it has this element of ahankar. Only going beyond ahankar we can reach more elevated states of our consciousness. So this is the first topic, sarga. Sarga, which we have to understand very clearly. And sarga, beyond sarga is shelter. Yato, yataha. The first function of the shelter of Ashraya is yataha, from which everything else comes. So he glances, and his glance is extremely powerful. It has immense energy to create everything and to create this big bang, so to speak. So yataha, by understanding how all the elementary creation is coming from the Lord, we're getting the first understanding of who Lord is. The first conception or the first understanding of shelter, of Ashraya. And then Visarga. Visarga is the secondary creation. Secondary creation is the creation of Lord Brahma, as Sukadeva Goswami explaining. Lord Brahma, the creator of this universe, he creates this according to karma. And basically, this is a very important, again, very important point, how the bodies of the living entities are created. How these blocks of creation ultimately come together and create our bodies. We have to understand that within our bodies there is Mahatattva, it's our intelligence, or it's actually our chitta, Mahatattva, the representation of Mahatattva. Within our body there is Sutra Tattva, the dynamic force in the creation. This is prana, the 10 pranas, actually one prana with 10 functions. And then within our body there is ahankar, the false ego, very, very primordial level of our existence. I actually studied, it was very interesting how the brain is composed. And you can very clearly see by studying the composition of the brain where ahankara is there. Ahankara is in the very deep layers of the brain, in the stem of the brain. This is where ahankaric functions, all these survival instincts are there. Because ahankara is, I want to live, I want to exist. This survival instinct is very deeply engrossed or inscripted within our body. And then, so the secondary creation is the creation of the bodies of living entities, different bodies, how Lord Brahma, by the help of his sons, Prajapatis, created different bodies, how from Kardama Muni all the snakes came out and all the scorpions came out and all the birds came out and rishis and daityas and danavas and all these demonic species of life and devas through Danu Danavas came out, from Diti, Daityas came out, from Aditi, Devas came out, from Kadru, all the snakes came out, from Vinata, all the birds came out, all these different creations are there. So, but the point, why do we have to know this? Again, it's very beautifully explained by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and by Srila Prabhupada that we have to understand for what these bodies are being created from the primary elements, from the building blocks. There are three purposes why this body is given to me. Three purposes. What are these three purposes? The first purpose is to enjoy. This is an obvious purpose. Why this body is given to me as the soul, to enjoy. The secondary purpose, very important, the second, not secondary, second, is to get liberation. This body, specifically human body, is designed in such a way, including mind and everything, that one gets the desire of liberation, desire of mukti, desire to get rid of all the sufferings, to put full stop to all the sufferings. And the third function is why this body is created, to perform devotional service and to obtain love of God. This is the three purposes of this body, specifically human body. And we have to really clearly understand and understand how to employ this body. Ultimately, this body is given to us by God, by the Creator, by secondary Creator, Brahma, and ultimately by the primary Creator to perform the devotional service. That's why the hands are there. Why the hands are there? To do puja. Why the legs are there? To do Govardhan Parikram. Why the mouths are there? To speak about the Lord and to eat His remnants, of course. Why the nose are there? The nose is only for this purpose, to smell the incense and the oils and the flowers which we offer to the Lord. So this is the secondary, the importance of the secondary creation, visarga, to understand the purpose of our body, how our body is created from the secondary elements, and what is the purpose? Why do I have these legs or hands with beautiful fingers? This is the most important instrument which we have, the fingers. The most part of our brain is actually to operate with these fingers. You can do so many things with the fingers. But ultimately, it's all to serve the Lord, to develop certain innate capacities in us to serve the Lord. Atra sarga visargascha stanam. Stanam, very important point, next point. And Sukadeva Goswami glosses this stanam, he says, stitir Vaikuntha Vijaya. The third topic is stanam, atra sarga visargascha stanam. The third topic is stanam. Stanam means the place. You're created, there is elementary creation, then your body is created, then you have to be given the place. What is this place? And Sukadeva Goswami, in a very beautiful way, very enigmatic way, explains this. Stitir Vaikuntha Vijaya. What is Vaikuntha Vijaya? Different commentators differently gloss this statement. They say, Jiva Goswami says, what does it mean, Stitir Vaikuntha Vijaya? He says that the places in this world are created in a very particular way, that the borders are maintained, that everything is actually in its own place, so to speak. It's not merged, it's not mixed. Like we know the ocean doesn't come out from its borders. It stays in the same place, and the islands of this, they have the fixed borders are there. So he says, Vaikuntha Vijaya, we can surmise the existence of the Lord by seeing how nicely and beautifully everything is created, and how it is different, how different places are there for different people. For different kinds of people, there are different places. According to the purposes of these people, according to their understanding of the meaning of life and everything else, like India is a special place. And I'm not talking now about the geographical borders, I'm talking about the metaphysical borders of this place. This is the place where people with deep spiritual inclination are being born, and therefore, this is the most spiritual place in the world. America is a very special place, very special place. If you are in America, you know. If you're not in America, you're lucky. So, and it contains its identity. Russia is a very special place. It maintains its identity. So many revolutionaries came and say, we will change everything. Nothing changes. And therefore, Jiva Goswami says, Vaikuntha Vijaya. This is the place for particular kind of people. And in a similar way, there are different planetary systems, and these different planetary systems are for different kinds of living entities. The Lord is specifically designed this universe in such a way that people can fulfill their desires, enjoy in a particular way with the particular intensity, but at the same time get frustrated and ultimately try to get liberation or try to perform devotional service. And that's Stanam, the third topic. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives a different explanation of this. Why Sukadeva Goswami says Stitir Vaikuntha Vijaya. He says Stitir Vaikuntha Vijaya means that Stiti Vijaya means the victory. Vaikuntha Vijaya, Vaikuntha means, of course, the Lord. He says Stiti means maintenance. And he says, when Sukadeva Goswami says this, Stitir Vaikuntha Vijaya, he says that explaining Stiti, or our situation in this world, Sukadeva Goswami wants to convey the message that the one who maintains this world is more important than the one who creates it or the one who destroys it. Vaikuntha Vijaya, according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, means that Vishnu, who is the maintainer of this world, is higher than Shiva and Brahma. And in this way, they're conveying to us the sense of what shelter is. The shelter is somebody who is maintaining the second function of the absolute truth, or Ashraya. Because sometimes people say, Shiva is more powerful. And even sages are bewildered. Brahma is very powerful. We know the stories there in Srimad-Bhagavatam. Atri Muni, he didn't know who is the Supreme Lord. Therefore, just in case it works, he worshipped all the three. And sometimes people include somebody else there, Rajiv Gandhi or somebody else, just in case he is God. Jiva Goswami says, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that the message of Srimad-Bhagavatam, by which Sukadeva Goswami is explaining to us Ashraya, is that Ashraya is something which gives you, which maintains you, which pervades you, as the word Vishnu means, all-pervading, and this is higher than the one who creates and the one who destroys. That's what Vaikuntha Vijaya means. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Vaikuntha Vijaya means, there is the third meaning of this. Sthiti means the destruction of the suffering of the living entities. Who can destroy or release us from sufferings? Only the Supreme Lord. And therefore, he is called Vaikuntha here. Vaikuntha means the one who is free from all the kuntas, all the difficulties, all the sufferings. And Vaikuntha Vijaya, he is victorious. He can give us the release from all the sufferings. Therefore, sthiti maintenance means if we want to maintain, if we want to stay in certain place, we have to be free from sufferings. Who can give us the freedom from sufferings? Only the Supreme Lord. And in this way, sthiti or Stanam, the third topic, is explaining the nature of the Supreme Lord. So the Supreme Lord is the one who creates everything. This is Sarga and Visarga. The Supreme Lord is the one who maintains everything. This is Stanam and Poshanam. Stanam, Poshanam, this is the fourth topic of Srimad-Bhagavatam. And the fourth topic of Srimad-Bhagavatam, Sukadeva Goswami glosses Tadanugraham. Tadanugraham means his mercy. Poshanam means nourishment. So we have to understand by which means we live here. Sometimes people say that, we need our daily bread to live. That we live by bread, or we live by rice, or we live by something else. No, we live by mercy. Tadanugraha. Poshanam tadanugraha. Why do we live? How we are able to live? How we are able to maintain our lives? What is behind the maintenance? Behind the maintenance is the mercy of the Lord. The very cause of the maintenance of our existence is the Lord. So the Lord, He created us, and it is the Lord who by His mercy maintains us. For ordinary people, He maintains ordinary people by giving them daily bread and food and everything else, and money and, some ice cream sometimes. But for His devotees, when somebody becomes His devotee, he really understands that I'm only living because of His mercy. So, and that's the highest way of existing in this world. To be directly in contact with Lord's mercy by understanding that it's only Lord's mercy by which I'm being maintained. So that's, again, the description of Ashraya. All these things are being described by different prayers and by different stories only to convey this message that who is Ashraya? Ashraya is somebody who is maintaining us by his mercy. Stanam Poshanam Uttaya Uti, the next topic, beautiful topic of Srimad-Bhagavatam, very important topic for our understanding, and for understanding of what we are doing here is what is the impetus for our activity. Why sometimes we have bad desires, sinful desires. Sometimes we have good desires. Why sometimes we have such a powerful emotional energy within us that we cannot do, all of a sudden we are overwhelmed by anger or by lust, and we cannot do anything. So this is uti, which is the internal impetus for us to act. Sometimes we act in a pious way, sometimes we act in a foolish way, in a completely tamasic way, in a sinful way. Again, driven by all these emotions which are there and by different desires which are there. And why some desires are stronger, some desires are weaker. Why different people have different desires. Somebody else with us apparently is free from lust or has very little lust, and I'm near to him and I'm totally overwhelmed by lust. I'm suffering, I'm twirling around, don't know what to do because I'm obsessed by this energy which is inside. So this we have to understand where it's coming from. It's coming from the samskaras, from the past actions, and therefore it is said that Uti, Sukadeva Goswami glosses Uti as... He doesn't gloss Uti here. Karma Vasana. Manvantara, I lost, but I will explain that. Karma vasana, this is the subliminal impressions within our mind, the karma vasana. The impressions which are coming from our past activities and most importantly, from our association. Because every association with every living entity, with every mental creation in this world, leaves an impression upon us. When we go into in the internet, we have to understand that we are creating the impetus for future actions. And we have to be very careful of what we are doing, how we are doing, and how to control our mind. And in reality, we can only control our mind to a very limited extent, only if we act in a very pious, sattvic way, and so on and so forth. But basically this utaya is that we have to be very careful, and ultimately the point is that if we want to have good impetus, we have to have association with good people. If we really want to come to the Lord, if we really want to change this vicious, to break through this vicious circle of karma, which keeps us inside this material world, which keeps us bound to these conditions in the material world, there is only one way, there is only one way, there is only one way. Yes, we have to act piously, but this is very weak. We have to associate with saintly persons. That's very powerful. The association with saintly persons will change our karma completely and will change the impetus. So many people, just by very cursory association with Srila Prabhupada, developed a very strong impetus to do devotional service. That was the power of his association. And so many examples are there in the history of the world, how people change completely the course of their lives. And if we understand the nature of this uti, because otherwise we will be bewildered. We are victims of all these raging emotions which are there in our heart. We don't know what to do with these emotions, how to deal with them, how to relate to them, how to change them. And therefore we have to understand utaya karma vasana. This is the result of our karma. What is the main karma which we are doing in this world is the association with people. And by associating with different people, we are creating our future destination, our future life. And Manvantarani Saddharma, Srila Sukadeva Goswami also explains, and that's again, shelter. How we will get Ashraya, how we will come closer to Ashraya if we are overwhelmed by all these emotions, if we are in this vicious circle of our karma, only by the means of sadhu sangha, satsanga. And Manvantara Shanukatha, Manvantara is the next topic, is Manvantarani Saddharma Pricha. Saddharma means the pious activities, or the all the manus, all the rulers. What is the main function of the ruler? This world is created, and in this world there are rulers. And the position of the ruler is sacred. Why everywhere in Srimad-Bhagavatam it is said that the Raja king is the representative of God? Because his main function is to establish Saddharma, is to establish the moral principles, the principles of Dharma in this world, to rule in such a way that his prajas, his subordinates, his people, his subjects follow the principles of Dharma. And therefore Manus are coming here, the Manus establish this Dharma, and every ruler has to understand that he is the representative of this universal universal structure, universal power structure. Manvantara is basically, what is Manvantara? Manu is coming for 71 yugas. Manu is ruling, and with the Manus there are Saptarishis, and there are all the demigods who are in charge of different functions of this world. So basically it's explaining how this world is functioning, what is the basis of functioning of this world, what is the rule, how upon which laws this world is functioning. And this law is called Sat Dharma, the eternal Dharma. Everyone has to understand his nature and act according to his nature. And the ruler is supposed to make sure that everyone follows his nature. That, there is no false brahmacharis who only eat and, drink and like somebody told me the story that he was walking here in Vrindavan and, he met two local people, and these local people looked at him and started laughing and said, "Iskon brahmachari, no marriage, only love affair." So Manvantara means, Saddharma, Manvantara means that no such brahmacharis, not allowed. The manus or the rulers, whatever the position of authority, whatever the position of authority we should have, we should see that there is no violation of this Saddharma, of the sacred rules or the sacred laws of this nature. And therefore Manvantara is there. Therefore this topic is there, how this creation is being guided, or how this creation is, what is the guiding principle of this creation, Saddharma. Manvantarya Nukatha. So that's the topic mainly. It's asked by Maharaja Parikshit in the beginning of 8th canto. Next topic is Isha Anukatha. And then the Lord comes every Manvantara and he performs his leelas, and again he's performing his leelas, coming here, he's giving his mercy. From him everything is coming. He is maintaining everything. By his mercy everything is being maintained. He is establishing this rule of all different rulers. No, this is not. Establishing this rule of all different rulers who maintain Dharma. For what? What is the ultimate purpose? That he can come and he can deliver all the living entities. Because when the living entities follow Dharma, then they will be receptive. Then they will take seriously his message. Then they will hear about his Isha Anukatha, different stories about different incarnations of the Lord. And the stories of different incarnations of the Lord will ignite the desire to come closer to the Lord. The piety itself has no meaning, but the piety becomes meaningful because it creates certain disposition in the mind of the living entity towards Isha Anukatha. And therefore, this Srimad-Bhagavatam is explaining different stories about different incarnations to strengthen this desire within the heart of living entity. So I will probably stop here because I'm already talking for too long, already 1.5 hours or so. We can leave the remaining few topics of Srimad-Bhagavatam. I wanted to go further, but it's probably enough. We can leave the remaining topics of Srimad-Bhagavatam for the next class. I realize that our seminar will be longer than even probably 5 or 6 lectures. Let's see how it works. So we are not in a hurry in this sense. What I have described so far is that the most important and the most mysterious subject matter of Srimad-Bhagavatam is Ashraya. Ashraya is impossible to understand by normal means. But we can have some idea about the Ashraya if we study very carefully, with the help of Srimad-Bhagavatam, our situation in this world. We will understand a lot about Ashraya if we study all these 9 subject matters of Srimad-Bhagavatam by 2 main means, by Shrutena and Arthena, by Shruti, by hearing the direct praises of the Supreme Lord by different sages, and by Arthena, by implication or by deriving different meanings or different lessons from the stories which are there in Srimad-Bhagavatam. And while understanding this, we have to understand that everything is directed for us to understand that we are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. We are His Dharma. And this is a very important message of Srimad-Bhagavatam. And what is our Dharma or function in relation with the Supreme Lord, that we will, of course, explain later. And this is a very important point of the whole Srimad-Bhagavatam. So, in this way, I tried to explain or to go a little further in this very important subject matter, that how we have to approach or how we can get this darshan of Bhagavata-svarup in the form of Srimad-Bhagavatam by understanding different topics. And of course, perhaps I will say a few words about this. There are 2 theories about how the subject matters are, or these topics of Srimad-Bhagavatam are related with different cantos of Srimad-Bhagavatam. Srila Jiva Goswami is very categorically stating that all the 10 subjects are there in all the 10 cantos, in all the stories, the 10th subject are there. And there are some people who say that primarily they are canto-wise. The first 2 cantos are introductory to Srimad-Bhagavatam, and starting from the 3rd canto is Sarga, 4th canto is Visarga, 5th canto is Stanam, 6th canto is Poshanam, 7th canto is Uttaya, 8th canto is Manvantara, and 9th canto is Isha-nukatha. And there is definitely something to this Krama theory. Like, as I mentioned, in the beginning of 8th canto, Sukadeva Goswami Maharaja Parikshit directly asked Sukadeva Goswami, explain to me Manvantara. And that's exactly the place of the topic of Manvantara. And Sukadeva Goswami starts explaining Manvantara in the 8th canto. In the beginning of 9th canto, again, Maharaja Parikshit asked question, can you explain to me different stories of different incarnations of the Lord, different dynasties? Because the stories of different incarnations, actually, I forget to tell this very important point, that it's not only the stories about the Lord, but it's also the stories about the great devotees of the Lord, who are coming in different dynasties, specifically in these 2 dynasties, Chandravamsha and Suryavamsha. All the different great devotees of the Lord who come with the Lord, who help Him in His pastimes in this material world, they're included in this Isha-nukatha. So, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also in some cantos says that 7th canto is primarily describing Uti, the impetus. So there is something to it. Both statements are correct. We have to understand that, like for example, 7th canto, it would not be correct to say that 7th canto is only explaining Uti. In the story of Hiranyakashipu and Nrisimhadev, we see that, the Nrisimhadev, he appeared. So in one sense, it was Sarga, he appeared in this world. Stanam he gave his mercy to Prahlad, Poshanam, he definitely maintained him and gave his mercy. And then Nirodha, he destroyed Hiranyakashipu, the destruction, the logical consequence of the impious deeds of Hiranyakashipu came, Nirodha came, and Mukti, some sort of liberation came to Hiranyakashipu. So all the topics are there. And definitely Ishanukatha, Nrisimhadev came in this particular Manvantara, and this is described, it's attributed to a particular Manvantara. So all the topics are there in the 7th canto, but at the same time, we can clearly see that there is, so to speak, the Varti, the axle of the canto, around which the different topics of the canto are being more or less composed or designed. Like the 3rd canto is about Sarga, 4th canto about Visarga, the secondary creation. And this understanding helps us to understand the general message of the canto. When we will give a very short review of 12th canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam, we will perhaps elaborate on this point, how this topic, this primarily topic, the main topic is being described, but all the other topics are described. But the most important point which we have to understand is that in all the cantos, no matter what is being described, the main topic is one. What is it? It's Ashraya. So in all the cantos, in the 1st canto, Krishna is there. In the very beginning, in the 7th chapter of the 1st canto, he is there in the chariot with Arjuna, and Arjuna is praying to him, and Arjuna is asking for his protection, for his Ashraya, for his shelter, asking for his Sharanam into him. And Queen Kunti and Bhishmadev and everything else is there, and then Krishna leaves this world, and how unbearable it is for everyone. So 1st canto, 2nd canto, of course, in Chatuk Shloki Srimad-Bhagavatam, aham evasam evagre. So this main topic, there is only one topic of Srimad-Bhagavatam, is to convey to us the highest conception of the absolute truth. What is this highest conception of the absolute truth? Ultimately, we have to realize this fact that the highest conception of the absolute truth is Radhakanta. Radhakanta, Navajalada Kantis, Chid Udaya, as Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains in his Dashamula Tattva. Savai, this Hari, who is the highest worshipable truth, highest object of worship. He is Radhakanta. He is the one who is served by Srimati Radharani. And from this conception, only if we have this conception, we will be able to clearly understand what we are doing, what we are supposed to do, in which mood we have to chant Hare Krishna mantra. Unless we understand this, unless we have realization of this, we will not be able to really properly chant the Hare Krishna mantra with feelings towards the Lord. So all the topics of Srimad-Bhagavatam ultimately conveying this message, who is the Supreme Truth, and how this Supreme Truth has created this material world, maintaining this material world, and how all the material world is, how he is the adhishtan, or the foundation, the substratum upon which everything is being rested. Even today. So that's my second installment to our seminar. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, we have one or two questions. Is it okay? Can we take?
Yeah, one or two is okay.
All right, okay. So one is not really a question, but Kishori Mataji from Dubai has requested to, the three characteristics of Ashraya. Kishori Mataji, is this what you wanted to understand? The yataha, yena and yat.
The vibhakti. Is that yataha, yena and...
Yeah, it's three vibhaktis. Three cases in Sanskrit, yes. Yataha, ablative case. Yena, instrumental case. And yasmin. No, but in this verse it's yat, but yasmin, locative case. That's why this verse is very often quoted. That's the description of Brahman. It is said in this verse, what should be your inquisitiveness about, what you should try to understand, what should be the subject matter of your endeavors to understand. And it is very clearly said, the definition is given. We should try to understand by all means this ashraya, shelter, which has these three main very important functions. Yataha, yena, and yasmin, or yat.
Hare Krishna. So the next question is from Anupama Radharani Mataji from Dubai. Her question is, Maharaj, can you explain further about metaphysical borders and the people residing within them? Prabhupada said that those who take birth in India are already 50% Krishna conscious. In India, we see so many people not inclined to take up Krishna consciousness. After the beginning of the new Satya Yuga, will all places over the world be equally conducive to Krishna consciousness?
Not necessarily. Still, there will be some flavors in different places. Yes, India has a very lamentable state of affairs at the moment, which is not, still we should not undermine the greatness of being born in India and being, being able to, to be in contact with this inheritance. Still, some connection is there. It's imperceptibly there. Like we have our conscious mind, and yes, our conscious mind and conscious mind of Indian people, modern Indian people, is very much polluted, no doubt about it, by all the modern ways of pollution, all the internet and culture and everything. But we should not forget that there is a subconscious mind, and in the subconscious mind, and it's more important. The composition of our subconscious mind is more important, and the problem with this, we may not know, we don't know what is there in subconscious mind. When Prabhupada says that people in India who are born in India, 50% Krishna conscious, he means this subconscious mind, they have inherent inclinations towards God. And when something drastic happens in their life, they will know where to go. They have this subconscious or subliminal sort of tendencies or trends which are there. Whereas people who are born in different other countries, they have different subconscious tendencies which may not be known to them and which can be very counterproductive to their practice of Krishna consciousness. It's actually interesting. I recently read something about mantras, that there are different mantras. It's not in connection with mantras which we chant, but in general the science of mantra. There is a great science of chanting mantras, and it is said there are 5 kind of mantras, or 5 kinds of people who can chant the mantras. Siddha, Sadhya, Susiddha, Sadhana, or Sadhya, and of four kinds, and Ari. Anyway, what I want to say is that this is about Ari. It is said in this science of mantra that if some people chant certain mantras, that these mantras will destroy them. Why? Because their subconsciousness, their consciousness is composed in such a way that even though this is a good, beneficial mantra, but chanting of this mantra, the result of the chanting of this mantra will not be favorable or will not be ultimately beneficial for them because of their nature. Again, it doesn't have anything to do with Hare Krishna mantra or with our Gopal mantras. Can somebody turn off their microphones because I can hear very loud voices on the background? Please mute your microphones. So, what I want to say is that to illustrate that some people, and I unfortunately I have seen it, even though we glorify Krishna consciousness or the practice of bhakti as a very universal process, which is universally applicable, which is not, it's not discriminating against the sex or age or whatever. Everyone can be engaged in it, no doubt about it. Still, certain people, while they are trying to engage in their process of Krishna consciousness, they encounter severe obstacles, and they sometimes become more offensive because of their general nature. So what I want to say is that there is this subconscious constitution, and people of certain natures are born in certain places not without a reason. There is a reason. And this reason is mostly not known on a conscious level. It's on a subconscious level. And therefore, so this is the collective karma of the place, and therefore they imbibe the collective culture of this place very easily, very naturally, from the childhood. They're more or less being programmed by all these customs of the place, the cultures of the place, the interaction of the people, the language. Language has a lot to do with our actually understanding of the values of life and everything else, subconscious nature of our subconsciousness. So, and therefore, of course, now Kali Yuga, everything is mixed. And sometimes people are born in Russia, but they have very strong bonds with India and very much kind of connected with it. Mixture is there, but still, there will be some metaphysical borders of different places which are essential to maintain the order, the universal order, but at the same time the opportunities to practice Krishna consciousness will be there as much as they are there, and the innermost inclination of every soul could be nourished through the medium of Srimad-Bhagavatam and chanting of Hare Krishna mantra and associating with devotees. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm really late. Thank you for your kind attention. And I hope it's helpful for you.
Maharaj, it was absolutely fantastic, and we thank you very much for taking your time off and giving your association to us. I want to sum up. There is a nice message from Vijay Mehta Prabhu from Muscat, who writes, Hare Krishna Maharaj, Nandvat Pranam. It was a great lecture in a very simplified manner for a neophyte like me about the purpose and hidden knowledge of Srimad-Bhagavatam. 3 characteristics, yatha yena yasmin, the methods of understanding, shrutena arthena, and then he mentions further about the whole purpose of Srimad-Bhagavatam being Ashraya, and he is indeed looking forward to hearing from you in days to come. On that high note, we feel the same, and you also said you said many things, we've noted them down. You said association with saintly persons can change impetus of our activities. We hope, we pray that we qualify ourselves to associate with you more and more. On that note, we thank you again from the bottom of our hearts and look forward to your association 2 weeks from now. Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srimad-Bhagavatam, Grantaraj ki jai, Gaura Premanande. Okay.